The business news now for you on the programme, and a rally on Wall Street as markets took some comfort from Joe Biden's comment that he's considering easing sanctions on China, and as well from Beijing's ongoing promises of stimulus. As you can see, quite big rises actually on Wall Street there right across the board. Biggest one of the Dow Jones at virtually 2%. Asian shares, they've been slipping again, though, soured by an early slide in US stock futures. All eyes now on early surveys, in fact, of European and US manufacturing purchasing managers, which are due out later, that could show some slowing. But you can see the biggest drop there of 1.35% on the Hang Seng. Now, the World Economic Forum continues, of course, in Davos in Switzerland, and while the formal agenda is dominated by Russia's war in Ukraine and the impact on the global economy, participants are also discussing issues like climate change and digital development. Well, France 24's business editor Kate Moody is there for us, and she's been speaking to the head of the Crypto Council for Innovation about the role that cryptocurrencies can play and the recent sell-off.
Well, I'm here now with Sheila Warren, the CEO of the Crypto Council for Innovation. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks. The crypto markets have seen more volatility than usual, and there's usually quite a lot of volatility, but recent weeks has been really huge. Can you help us understand what's going on?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think contextually we have to look at the fact that there's been a massive market adjustment, let's say, across every industry, including crypto. I do think we had the Terra Luna situation that I do think was quite impactful in the space, although, of course, it's very isolated and doesn't really reflect the broader crypto industry. But I think that we're seeing responses to things like inflation, to the pandemic being ongoing, and, of course, to other political situations happening around the world, including Russia and Ukraine.
What do you make of people who are worried about how cryptocurrencies might be used to get around sanctions or something in that context of the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
Yeah, what's really interesting is actually what we've seen is very little evidence that this is being used in any fashion by anyone in Russia, particularly Russian oligarchs and others, to evade sanctions. But at the same time, we're seeing a country essentially crowdfund a wartime defense and humanitarian assistance, being Ukraine, using this technology and using these opportunities. So what's actually been interesting is I think this is a use case we all talked about and hoped not to see in my lifetime, but here it is manifesting in real time.
At the World Economic Forum, we talk a lot about challenges and solutions. Where do cryptocurrencies fit into that context, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think there's a distinction here to be drawn between cryptocurrencies per se and the crypto environment ecosystem itself. And I do think that as we see more the future of work, for example, people more and more choosing to work from other locations or be more decentralized in the way that they engage as a workforce, we're seeing more and more desire to have opportunities to share things like information or data or exchange value using this technology and using the opportunities that are here. So I think we're at an inflection point in the industry when it comes to the fintech opportunities. We're seeing a lot of maturity in the industry reflected here on the promenade here in Davos, and the fact that many companies engaged in this space have their own storefronts. But we're still at the beginning of some of the kind of metaverse data opportunities here, which are going to be, I think, just as, if not more powerful.
Regulators in different parts of the world are still struggling to catch up, really, to the crypto industry, aren't they? What do you make of the efforts to try to bring in some regulations? Are they going to help or hinder the fact that it's all coming in at sort of different speeds in different parts of the world?
Well, the hope would be that there'd be global coordination. I think that's probably not fully realistic. What we're hoping is that as we educate and as we work together with regulators all around the world, every jurisdiction has its own things it's maybe concerned about or maybe excited about, right? And so you'd see that differentiating. I do think we're seeing some of the major players in this industry, in this ecosystem, Singapore, the UK, the EU, the EP specifically, and the US, understand how nuanced the conversation is and how challenging it is. So I'll speak briefly about President Biden, the executive order that came out in the United States, which I think did two things. It made it impossible to speak credibly about this without nuance. So it's not black and white. It's hard, right? It's a complicated thing. At the same time, I think we saw the realization that this industry is real. There is no ability to kind of wave it off like kind of people were inclined to do, I think, in some places in the past. In response to that, we've seen a lot of activity all around the world to the point that you raised.
Every time I do an interview about cryptocurrencies, I ask this question because I'm interested in your opinion. We're seeing cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin in particular, starting to be used as a form of legal tender in some parts of the world. Do you consider cryptocurrencies to be an investment or a form of payment?
I think they're both. And I think it's important to understand that different kinds of cryptocurrency are going to have different use cases and they're fit for different purposes. So looking at the two kind of OGs, if you will, Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're designed for different purposes. And so I do think you're seeing Bitcoin, because it's proven over time to be robust. It's volatile, but it's robust. It is not going anywhere. The idea that Bitcoin's going to vanish, simply ridiculous. Ethereum was designed for a different purpose. It was designed to have a lot of applications built on top of it. Now, as we see layer 2 solutions in Bitcoin, there's something called Lightning that's coming up. As we see it be less energy intensive and other things to use Bitcoin, I do think we're going to see more interest in adopting it as a form of legal tender in different parts of the world, particularly in environments like the ones of Central African Republic and El Salvador that do have volatile domestic currencies.
All right, Sheila Warren, thanks for being with us. I'll be back with more from the World Economic Forum all this week. Stay tuned to France 24.
Kate Moody there, and we'll be live with Kate at Davos in our business bulletin in 3 hours' time.